There's evidence to suggest that Toto Wolff knows more about the Christian Horner sex scandal than he's letting on. His public statements indicate that he has some inside information, and this may point to yet another possible conflict of interest between his wife Susie's position as boss of the F1 Academy and his as Mercedes F1 team principal. Can F1 ever be sure that Susie is not passing confidential information derived from her position to her husband to the detriment of his competitors? Before providing the latest evidence for you to ponder, we invite those of you who haven't yet done so to like, comment, share, subscribe and click the notification icon to be notified when the next video is uploaded. To recall, when Susie was announced as the head of the F1 Academy, without the position ever been advertised publicly, many opined that this was down to her husband's influence within F1. There were those that held the view that this would extend his influence even further. We on our part asserted that this was a possible quid pro quo for Mercedes F1, withdrawing their appeal against the theft of Lewis Hamilton's 8th title. So, from the outset, this was an appointment that was mired in controversy and reeked of never-ending conflicts of interest. Well, lo and behold, it was not long before the first conflict of interest red flag was raised. Less than a year into her tenure, the FIA opened an investigation into the possibility that Susie may have leaked confidential F1 information to her husband during the course of pillow talk. Liberty Media threw its weight behind its employee, as all the other team principals united for the first time in F1 history to publicly disclaim any responsibility for making the complaint that prompted the investigation. Consequently, the FIA dropped the investigation, but the red flag was left flying at half-mast. Well, a few months on, and still inside Susie's first year, the conflict of interest red flag was back at full mast. The preceding event was the Christian Horner sex scandal, which went viral when the news broke. People inside and outside Formula One were shocked in equal measure by the revelations. Red Bull's handling of the allegations came under intense scrutiny and criticism from all quarters. Because the scandal broke during the run-up to the start of the season, many inside Formula One were forced by media and public pressure to speak on it. Toto was one of those who spoke on the matter, and on reflection, what he said in several of his numerous interviews raised questions about the depth of his knowledge of the matter and his motivation for speaking. In an interview granted to a German media outlet, Toto intimated that the real story, which was the most important one, was in the background, this being why Fiona was so uncomfortable that she had to go to HR. Well, I don't know about you guys, and we invite you to provide your comments, but we have not come across any information or reports that Fiona lodged her complaint with HR in Austria that are not linked to Toto. All the references to HR that we could find in the media were quotes from Toto. Red Bull did not specify how the complaint was lodged in Austria, rather than the UK. So, what made Toto say that she lodged her complaint with HR? Given the high level of Fiona's and Christian's positions, it is possible that she may have complained directly to the CEO, Oliver Mintzlaff, and not HR. So where did Toto get this granular detail from? To make the red flag bigger and brighter, Toto made a distinction without a difference between the handling of the complaint by Red Bull in Austria and Red Bull in England. He praised the handling by the Austrians while criticizing that of the English. This is yet another example of Toto doing what we have come to expect of him of late, which is speaking out of both sides of his mouth. In the first instance, the complaint was lodged in Austria and all the limited communication about it came directly from Austria, apart from the leaked information which came via the Dutch news outlet. It was Austria that confirmed the existence of the complaint after it was leaked by the Dutch. It was Austria that announced the appointment of the unnamed independent counsel. It was Austria that announced the conclusion of his investigation, and it was Austria that decided to withhold the report and its findings. So, the praise heaped on Austria is redundant, and the criticism leveled at England is unmerited. We respectfully invite your comments on why Toto felt the need to make the superficial attempt to be seen to be criticizing England, and not Austria. But before doing so, we would like to draw your attention to the fact that Red Bull are a major sponsor of Susie's F1 Academy. On one level, Red Bull are one of the 7 sponsors of the F1 Academy. On another level, Red Bull are currently sponsoring 3 female drivers with 3 different partners, one of which is Ford. Red Bull are sponsoring 2 drivers directly, while the third is being sponsored by Red Bull Racing. Red Bull and Ford are also partners in an academy training program. It is therefore clear that Red Bull are key to Susie's F1 Academy. This might explain why her husband has gone to ridiculous lengths to make a distinction without any difference between Red Bull Austria and Red Bull UK. Why the Mercedes team principal will stoop so low to make such a distinction is beyond us, so please let us have your comments if you have any suggestions. On the flip side, why is Susie Wolff, the woman whose alleged passion is to open up more opportunities for women to join Formula One, silent on the appalling treatment that a woman in Formula One is currently enduring? Is it because the company dishing out the atrocious treatment is her biggest sponsor? There is a possible conflict of interest, in that, the information that Toto is relying on, to intimate that there is more to come from the Red Bull scandal, could have come from his wife, who could have been privy to confidential information about what is going on in Red Bull, through her position as F1 Academy boss. She could have received information directly from her relationship with her F1 boss, Stefano Domenicali. She could have received the information directly from the female drivers that are being sponsored by Red Bull. Toto, on his part, could be making the vacuous distinction between Red Bull Austria and England to protect his wife. We hold the view that when Toto intimated that he formed his opinion from the media reports, he doth protest too much. Critically, as earlier advised, all references to HR that we could find in the media were quotes from Toto. Toto's desire to protect his wife, at any and all costs, is a conflict of interest that any Mercedes driver should be wary of. In the highly competitive F1 paddock, where Red Bull have demonstrated the depths to which they are willing to plunge for success, having a team principal who is somewhat compromised by having to take his wife's Red Bull-dependent career prospects into consideration is a serious handicap. Whichever way one looks at it, having a team principal's wife running the F1 Academy is a minefield of conflicts of interest, on par with having stewards in commercial relationships with engine suppliers. Could this be part of the reason why Toto and Susie were quick to blame Abu Dhabi on one man? Does Toto have to resign as team principal, or Susie as F1 Academy boss, to protect the integrity of the sport? Of course, there is the question of whether the sport has any integrity left. What do you guys think?